Hey, Stewart's Chapel, Don Pierson here in Don Counts, and we're at the Counts' home. This is September the 8th devotion, Wednesday, September the 8th devotion, and we are pretty much at the early stages of a series of devotion on being burden bearers. We started this by looking at Psalms 55:22, which tells us to cast our burdens upon the Lord. I want to read 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7. 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7. Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you. Humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you. I did these devotions a few days ago, but today, before I came over here, I got to thinking, I probably better look up this Greek word casting. I had assumed, and in fact, even in preparing, I had assumed that the word casting was the same word that was used in the Gospels for Jesus in casting out the demons. That word is very, very strong and aggressive as to expel. But I was wrong. This is not the same word as the word that is used for Jesus in casting out demons. This word's much more tender. This Greek word means to throw upon, or to place upon, to throw upon. I have two granddaughters. My oldest granddaughter's name is Sydney. Hey, Cindy. She'll remember this. My whole family remembers this. Sydney was young. I don't know how old she was, but she couldn't have been very, very old. And this probably took place about 15, 16 years ago. We hadn't lived at our place very long. We were going on into our 18th year there, so about 15, 16 years ago. There's a pond in my front yard, and Sydney and I had gone out. I as grandpa and Sydney as the granddaughter, just a small young girl at the time. And we were picking up rocks, and we were skipping them across the pond. I was teaching her how to skip them. I was to her left, and she was to my right. There was probably about, probably 10 or 15 feet between us. I was a little, not only to the left of Sydney, but I was kind of in the front of Sydney as well. Not too far, just enough to her left. I'm sitting there, I'm actually getting ready to do the same thing with a rock, and then all of a sudden, man, I'm down. I'm knocked out. Don't even know what happened. I scared Sydney so bad. I remember coming to, and by that time she was there. I wasn't down on the ground very long. She was over there just apologizing, saying, I'm sorry, just crying. Of course, I'm hurting. She had thrown a rock in an attempt to skip it, and when she did, she let go of it too far when it come across in front of her, and that rock hit me right in the temple. And it knocked me down, just like David knocked down Goliath, and I was on the ground. That ended up being a funnier story and a long-lasting story than I remember, because that just in a couple of days after that, it was time for me to get my picture done for my driver's license. And there was that big old red blob right there, big old cut where she had cut me with that rock. And I guess it was about 10 years of that driver's license of my picture having that big old mark in it. That's kind of what this word means. It means to cast it upon the waters, but to throw it out. I've never been really good at long distance throwing. I can tell you that right now. I would have never made a good pitcher. Even when I caught a ball playing baseball or a football, it didn't matter what kind of ball it was, basketball, I could never get it very far. I usually had to rely on others, so I was always relaying a baseball to somebody who would throw it a little bit farther because I could never get it there. Even today, I can't do long distance. But some time ago, God began to move in me about a burden I had, and that burden was I was lost. And on that day, I made an eternal throw. I cast that desire, that burden so far, it went all the way from southern Illinois to heaven, to the throne room of God, and God caught it. He caught it. I cast that care upon Him. Through the years, I've learned that if I will cast it, in other words, here's what you need to hear, okay? For you to be able to cast a burden upon the Lord, it has to leave your hands. See, the Greek word here is to throw upon, to toss. In other words, it has to leave your hands. It has to leave your hands. In other words, you can't keep it here. You can't keep it here. You can't keep it anywhere. It has to leave your hands. This incredible invitation for us to make a long distance throw all the way to heaven. You say, well, I can't throw that far. Oh, yeah, you can. You see, because the Holy Spirit is so close. So close. He'll take it the rest of the way. He even says that in Romans 8. Holy Spirit intercedes with groans and moans for us. So I want to ask you something. Do you have a string tied to your burden? Maybe it's a rubber band that you have attached to your burden. You throw it out and it comes right back. Throw it out, comes right back. In other words, you're never letting go because you're still holding on to the string or the rubber band. You can't cast your burden if you still have it. Cast what burden? All your care upon Him. Just toss it on Him. Love you, Stuart Shovel.